Welcome back, guys. It's Maverick here today with the grand finale of Isekai Meikyuu de Harem. So, we are here now with the final episode, and not a lot has to happen, right? So, actually, in the last episode, we just met Sherry, the second girl, if you will, second party member, second member of the harem, whatever you want to call it, second slave. But anyways, what matters is this is already the last episode, and how exactly are they going to do this, right? I'm still going to assume that they are going to utilize this chance, this one last episode, to have some sexy times. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are looking forward to that. But on the other hand, I actually quickly went back and checked just to make sure, because I was kind of confused, like, how exactly this was going to work. And indeed, actually, I've already mentioned many times before, right? This anime, this work, this light novel is actually quite slow in a lot of ways. The author really likes to take a lot of time to go through the steps, if you will, right? Like the first day that Sherry was picked up, they have a lot of things to do. They got to get her settled in, buy gear for her. Teach her about, the household stuff and that kind of thing. And as I said before, like in this series, a lot of the sexy times only happens at night. So we have a full day ahead of us, and within the light novels, within the manga, that itself took like 6 or 7 chapters, right? So I'm quite curious how they're going to do this. Are they going to leave us blue-balled or something like that? Well, let's just see, right? They could cook up something entirely original as well. I think that could happen. But in any case, let's jump right into the episode. Alright, let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. As is the stereotype. Yeah, so they need to go do the shopping and all that kind of stuff. They need to buy some clothes for her as well. Right. Completely disregarding physics. I have seen some interesting. Speaking of which, I have seen some interesting settings before, in terms of in terms of the groundwork of Oh, yeah. So it seems that they are rushing things along. Anyways, as I was saying, so yeah, some because obviously fantasy armor and fantasy weaponry is quite different from actual real life stuff, right? So I've seen some settings before where they basically have some sort of like weapon affinity that's related to your class. Oh, and we still have the opening as well. Okay, so I can talk here. One way that some series like to circumvent this, because obviously, like you're looking at Sherry, like from a pure physics standpoint, that can't happen, right? She can't possibly have the strength to lift up that kind of log, whereas others are not able to. They didn't quite show that here, but Michio isn't quite able to lift it up easily and swing it around, right? Only Sherry can do that, and in fact, even Roxanne can't really handle a club or a maul that well. So here they just view it as some sort of like innate ability that the dwarves have. But no, some ways that I've seen it done is that it's kind of like related to a mastery of a weapon. So it's tied to some sort of weapon mastery skill or some sort of class skill. And I think that generally works better in a lot of ways. Just to have some sort of excuse as to why certain classes utilize certain weaponry, and that makes it like their distinct advantage, right? And even like from a personal standpoint, like when I was thinking about not, because I like to read a lot of fantasy works and whatnot. So one kind of setting that I've tried to consider before is like maybe, oh, I believe they're Hmm? There was no context for this? Okay, that's kind of weird. So the reason why they were going to the labyrinth was actually because Michio was preparing a bath. Let me show. Yeah, this is where Sherry has a chance to show her knowledge. All right, this is a. All right, provide some context, right? Wait, they just stopped there? What the? Okay, so two things I like to add on to that part. So one thing is that actually Sherry was quite impressed that Michio knew of the skill saw theory because that is kind of like knowledge that's really out there. Like even for Sherry, who is a blacksmith, she went out of her way to research about this. So she was impressed by Michio's knowledge. And the second thing is hold on, actually not quite you guys think. Yeah. And the second thing was in regards to that adventure job. So one thing that Michio also asked was, so what would happen if somebody with an adventure job showed up? And Sherry answered, and Sherry basically answered, they'll probably be imprisoned because, that you might like the current emperor might view it as a usurper to the throne, right? Like maybe something to that threatens his rule. And so that really just kind of like continues to add on to Michio's avoidance of standing out and try to keep on the low and keep on the down low. Hmm. They're actually really making her character to be a lot more cuter than she is in the novels and manga. Okay, I guess they kind of sort of changed her character a little bit and to make her seem more endearing to the viewers. Yeah, so not quite for politeness here, but more for, you know, you gotta respect the hierarchy. Yeah, so okay, so they provide the context here. Oh, they sure do. Sexual maniac. Wait. Oh yeah, the bath scene. Okay, okay, okay. We do have the bath scene. All right. So basically, okay, this is quite funny. They basically skipped nearly the entirety of the first day just so they could get to sexy times. All right, I can understand though. If that's the case, then I can tell you guys right now that the rest of this episode will be all sexy times. Honestly, I like her hair a lot more when she puts it down. I'm not quite that big a fan of those doubles. To be honest, I feel like Sherry's proportions are a lot more normal. You know, in all honesty, I feel like watching the I actually do watch the uncensored versions as well because you know I gotta check everything, right? But anyways, I do feel like the censored versions being censored in this way is quite funny in of itself as well. So this is also quite different from Roxanne's, right? So the first time, well, actually no. Thinking back to it, the first time that Michio saw Roxanne naked was also when they had a bath the first time. So, not quite bath, washing, if you will. Once again, I mean, it's just the anime, but they're really trying to make Sherry much more endearing to the viewers. Because honestly, her personality was kind of a sort of kind of a controversial topic in the light novel and in the manga. She's a lot more, I wouldn't say aggressive, but she's very logical. Let me put it this way. So she has, if there's something that she feels is off or isn't right, she'll just speak out directly right then and there. So actually, Michio ends up being a little bit wary of Shuri as well, right? Because Shuri is smart, and so Michio's like, oh man, I gotta keep my attention up around her so I don't do anything bad to embarrass myself. And more of like that kind of character. Whereas here, they're just making her to be like the stereotypical, I guess, more lolly type of character, if you will. Even though she isn't technically a lolly here. Yeah, and I've no doubt that in the uncensored version, these frames should be moving. Nope. Well, hey, he didn't wash their hair. That was also supposed to happen. Yeah, they're honestly like for the first day, Sherry was a lot more apprehensive about her situation, whereas here she's just like very fully accepting of it. I mean, to be fair, she was also even originally quite accepting as well, but not quite so docile, if you will. Oh. Boom. Good save. Like I said, Roxanne is like super into like this sort of hierarchy kind of thing. She's like, I'm number one. And it's actually a common trait throughout their character as for her character as we continue on into the story as well. The more and more members that Michio gets, she's quite intent on the order, if you will. All right, now Sherry's turn. Like I said, they are stripping her character to just leave the cuteness part instead, and actually taking a lot of the prickly bits out of her. So don't get me wrong, like all of these scenes happen. It's just that actually curious. This is a little bit weird. I think in the manga version, like, definitely you didn't have Roxanne standing back there, like, as if she was waiting or something. I think she was supposed to be watching from the bed, but that's just a minor detail. I mean, I kind of expected this, right? It's the last episode, and we didn't really have 60 times the last episode either, so of course, right? Of course they're going to... of course they're going to have to go out with a bang, right? Literally with a bang. Huh. Only that? Okay. Yeah, like I said, they're really only keeping the cute sides of Sherry's character here. Sex Maniac level 1. That's for you guys to figure out in the novels or manga. Unless they do a season 2. So basically, buy more slaves. Make myself a hammer. Oh! Really? A sneak peek, eh? Okay, you know what? I don't hate this. I actually really like this. So we will have all 5 the girls sneak peek. Like I said, I don't really think they're going to be doing they're not really going to be having like 2 different seasons or whatnot. Wait, was she won in an auction? I can't quite remember. Poor Sherry. Oh hey, they even speak. Ah, nice. They actually showed the scene. Right, the most different of all the girls. Although in the end, no, like even his desires and ambitions didn't really go to like infinity, right? At the end of the day, it was just like enough for one party. Like I said, I think that's nice, giving us an actual sneak peek of all the other girls, and actually letting us see their circumstances as well. Because I can't quite remember if that was how Vesta got here, but definitely that was how Mirai and Rutina got here. Yeah, I don't. And by the way, so as I said before, this happens like way later on. To get to Rutina, like if they truly are doing like normal pacing, it has to like at least into season 3 or season 4 before it can get there. But anyways, let's talk more at the end of this. I'll see you guys right after this. Alright guys, so that was the grand ending of Isekai Meikyuu de Harem. Did you guys like it? As I said, of course they were gonna go out with a bang, and honestly, compared to episode 2, where they kind of sort of like shoehorned in some anime original stuff just in order for us to get a sneak peek of the different girls, I actually think this works much better because, as I said before, right, obviously I don't really think that this is going to get a second season. This typically looks to be one of those, one-offs to promote the light novel, promote the manga, if you will. It's more of like that kind of situation. Not to mention, like, the original work isn't exactly like that popular. I feel like, and to be perfectly clear, right, I really love this series, but I feel like it has a fatal flaw in it, which is where, Michio, he's really just here to build a harem and enjoy life, right? He doesn't really have greater aspirations. He's not here to slay some demon lord, save the world, or combat evil, or even like conquer a dungeon, if you will. Nothing like conquer a labyrinth, nothing like that. He just wants to live his life, eat good food, enjoy women, and that's basically it. And I applaud him for that as well. But that doesn't really make for good storyline, if you will, especially after he got like a full party already. And in this world, a party can only consist of 6 members, so with 5 harem members, his party is already full. Anyone else he gets isn't really going to be part of the combat party, right, unless he wants to do rotations. And honestly, if that is something that the offer is considering, like, I don't really know. I haven't gotten that far yet, but so I do like how they showed in the end a little bit about each of the other girls and what circumstances made them here. They didn't really go into the specific quirks that much of each specific girl, but it's, I guess it is what it is. They had to squeeze them in somehow. And like, I think as a fan of the original series, I am fully on board with this. Using this kind of method to showcase them a little bit, that would be great, right? Now, what I am feeling more conflicted about, however, is how the pacing of this episode went, and specifically what they did with Sherry's character here, because so first of all, like I said, we basically jumped the gun by a lot. They cut out a lot of stuff, including some stuff regarding the world. Like I said before, Sherry is, compared to Roxanne, Sherry is much more knowledgeable of this world. Like, she's much more well-learned, she reads a lot, she researches, etc., etc. So she knows a lot more in regards to norms and customs of this world, and also, like, even some more out-of-the-way information as well. So she's basically like a walking library, if you will, compared to both Roxanne and really to many of the other girls later on. Sherry is definitely the smartest one out of them. So there's a lot of discussion, a lot of dialogue between her and Michio in regards to how this world works, different theories that they put forth, and trying to figure out different things, and so on and so forth. So the anime basically cut a lot of that out. Like, even in day 1, they were already sort of like going at it and presenting, like, I guess you could say, like, both sides were sort of testing each other. And so that brings me to my second point, right, which is where they kind of slightly modified Sherry's character for this particular episode. I wouldn't even really say modify. It's just that there's 2 sides to Sherry that exist, right? There's the cute side of her, it definitely exists as well, but there's also the more prickly, the more thorny side to her, the logical side to her that really is an integral part of her character as well. So they basically sort of like completely removed, I wouldn't even say erased, right? They simply didn't show the scenes that showed her being much more logical oriented, being much more prickly in terms of the situation and whatnot, which really does drive Michio into uneasiness as well sometimes, and that I don't know, like some people don't really like that kind of relationship, but I feel like to me, the honest is not really so much on Sherry, but actually on Michio, right? Sometimes when I read the novels or I read the manga, I'm just like, dude, Michio, you're her owner. Man up and stick to it, right? Like, who is she to criticize you? And not to mention, a lot of times Michio is right, anyways. But that doesn't really quite work here because Michio is still like sort of kind of, I would even say kind of frightened of Sherry, right? Just because she is so smart and whatnot. But we don't really show any of that here, and instead they only retain the scenes with her where she is acting cute or is acting shy and whatnot, and really more so emphasize that kind of character, right? So I have to say, like, the Sherry that we see here isn't quite indicative of the actual Sherry in the original series here. But like I said, I can see why they did this. This is much more of a stereotypical kind of like lolly sort of character, and I feel like a lot of people would like this kind of character a lot more. As I said, her original character was kind of a controversy in amongst a lot of readers. Didn't quite like her I guess attitude or her way of viewing things, and also because she kind of made Michio feel uneasy, right? But I just feel like it added a flavor of uniqueness to Sherry as well, whereas here she's just like, I don't know, she's just like a little sister type of character, right? And we've seen a dime a dozen of those kinds of characters already. So I guess that's a little bit too bad, but she is cute. Don't get me wrong, and I absolutely love her as well. She's definitely much more on the sane side of amongst a lot of the girls here, as well as the fifth one, Rutina as well, who is also quite the interesting character. And if anything, I'm kind of sad that we can't really get to see her storyline, which is honestly one of the more epic storylines of the series. It's a much larger playing field, if you will, involving a lot more characters and actually having like a long-term storyline there. So it's a little bit sad that we aren't able to get to that point, but it is what it is. At least we got to see her, right? And see her. But yeah. But anyways, beyond all that, so let's talk a little bit more about the series as a whole, right? Like, again, I do recommend you guys, if I know a lot of people are just here for the sexy times, and that's completely fine, but I want to reiterate once again, the reason I love this series so, like, you can find fantasy works that have ecchi in them, right? They some are good quality, some are pretty bad quality, but this is one I would consider good quality because beyond the ecchi, beyond the hentai kind of stuff, it actually has a very good world setting, and it really tries to flesh out the world and its systems, right? I really love how they keep the gamification aspect all the way throughout, and even if some things are a little bit convenient and some things are a little bit arbitrary, but I think by and large the author really did a good job of trying to make a world that is closely defined by the rules that he laid out, and continues to abide by, right? So, and stuff including, and as I keep mentioning, I really love Michio's approach to the entire situation. I think I said even back in episode 1, like, if I were ever in an isekai situation, I feel like I would act exactly like Michio here, right? And taking a lot of precautions, understanding that, hey, this is a fantasy world and a lot of things are exciting and whatnot, and you want to make true your desires and needs and greed and so on and so forth, but still doing things in a step-by-step way, right? Constantly experimenting, constantly checking out his skills and abilities, constantly trying out different things in order to make himself prepared so that he can enjoy a good life, right? And he also takes care not to stand out, keeps care to hide his identity, hide his actual occupation, his job, and so on and so forth. And he's just overall a very street smart kind of character here, right? Does he do some dumb stuff later on? Sure. Is he completely infallible? No, definitely not. He makes a lot of mistakes as well, but I think overall it gives me the impression that, hey, this is a guy who's trying his best, and making the best of his situation and going about it intelligently, because he's not a genius, right? And to a certain extent he obviously has the main character plot armor, but it's not so overwhelming to the point where you just think this is ridiculous, right? He also gets into some situations where he can't win all the time, or maybe an outcome isn't like 100% in his favor, but that just makes things much more realistic in a lot of ways. And the fact that things did fall his way, you can view it more so because of the preparation that he made prior to this, rather than just the offer of simply handing it to him because he is the main character, right? So that's one of the main things why I love this series so much. Michio's character, as well as the consistency of the world building and the consistency that the author tries to allow us to enter into this world and continue to explore the different mechanics of this world. And so you really feel like you are in this world and trying to flesh out the world alongside the main character here. So, this is all in addition to what we already have in terms of the sexy times and whatnot. And like I said, honestly, in the original series, like the light novel and the manga, I think I've said this before, right? I would argue that a lot of the sexy times is actually quite vanilla, right? Compared to a lot of other ecchi works and hentai works and whatnot, the sex in this particular series is really quite vanilla. They actually added some scenes in the anime here, which is quite different from how the light novel portrays it or how the manga portrays it. Like, they definitely made it a lot more exciting and hotter, if you will. And again, I respect their decision to do that. It definitely adds a little bit of flavor to the series as a whole. But really, how do I put this? Instead of, like, some series, they focus just on the sex part, right? And then they kind of sort of have a story added on to them. Whereas this one, for this series, it feels more like they try to have an actual, like, fantasy world setting, a fantasy storyline, even though there's not really a main quest for the storyline, but there is a story, there is a world happening underneath, and it just happens to have sex in it. That's I feel like the main difference between why I like this work versus versus maybe some other work, and why I would recommend this work. So really, if you guys are interested in this one, I do recommend you guys to check it out. Check out the novels, check out the manga. I would recommend to check out the light novel more so than the web novel. The web novel definitely suffers from some issues as well. Having an editor definitely helps a lot of things, and I would say the manga is also a little bit more fleshed out and less wordy than the light novel. Like, I'm a guy who's completely okay with reading, but like I said, this is a series that is quite slow. The author kind of sort of takes his time with writing out some chapters, and sometimes you're just like, look, we don't need to learn about this, just move on with the story already. So I guess the manga would be like a sort of like nice in-between point, if you will, to enjoy this particular series. Although I do believe the manga itself isn't really that far off from what we are here currently. And like I said before, the novels or the chapters of the series actually go quite slow. Like, if we are truly going by what I would consider like a more reasonable pace, then really you would have maybe 12 episodes just with Roxanne, and by at the end of this episode, Sherry would come out, and then you go through another 12, 15, 20 episodes before we get to the third girl, and then so on and so forth, right? So it actually takes a long time. That's why I feel like they made the best of this situation by giving a little bit of sneak peek to everybody, and basically enticing you to come and enjoy the series in other forms of media, right? So on that aspect, I would say they did a pretty good job there. What else to talk about? Yeah, I think that's basically it. So anyways, again, I highly recommend this one. If you're looking for like a story with an epic storyline, I gotta become stronger. I'll become the strongest guy. I'm going to conquer a labyrinth. I'm going to conquer a dungeon. I'm going to defeat the demon lord. If you're looking for that kind of storyline, no, you definitely won't find it here. Like I said, this is definitely a storyline where the main character just wants to enjoy life, and everything that he's doing is just striving towards him enjoying life, right? He's quite disciplined. Sexy times not even sexy times is quite disciplined. That's why I call it very vanilla. And so that's how the story is. But if you do like this kind of concept, and you do want to explore like how a character thrown into a sort of like gamified world, a game-like world, goes about doing different stuff and still treats it in a lot of ways like a game, you know, I think this is a good series to sink your teeth into. So yeah. Anyways, that's it for this episode and for this series as a whole. Not really sure if there's any newcomers here. If you are a newcomer, you know, feel free to check out my other works as well. Although, admittedly, this season I was quite busy, so I only did 2 series. But hopefully for the next season, I will be able to do some more seasonal anime and some non-seasonal stuff as well. So, in any case, thank you guys for coming along, and hopefully I will see you guys next time. Until then, bye bye.